All right, today's project is kind of exciting. I'm going to be installing something that we've never had on Uma before, and considering we've lived on her for 3 years, that might come as a surprise to some of you guys. What I'm talking about is a Bilge switch. Down here below me is our Bilge, and in it there's a pump. So if any water gets on board, it all flows downhill, it ends up down here, there's a pump that takes it overboard. But for the last 3 years, we have only had a manual switch. So if there was water in the bilge, turn it on, pump it out, no big deal. Usually you have some sort of automatic, either it's a float switch or some other device that detects water and turns the pump on automatically to send it overboard. But today, I'm installing this hockey puck looking thing. It's made by a company called Bilge. And what's cool about this is it's solid state. There's no moving parts, there's nothing to get jammed. Typically what you'll find in a bilge is a float switch that just kind of floats up as there's water in it, turns the pump on. When the water goes down, the switch comes down. It's a really basic device and they fail all the time. They either get full of water and they don't float, they get something stuck underneath them when they go up and they don't turn the pump off, which burns up the pump, or they get something stuck on top so they don't work. They're just a relatively faulty device. They're cheap and a lot of people have them in their bilges, but they're not very trustworthy. This thing has 2 sensors in it, so if one ever fails, it'll use the other one. This is just the sensor that goes down inside the bilge. There are 2 other components in the kit that we got. One is sort of a junction box you mount kind of near the pump, and the other one is the control panel, which we've already mounted. And of course, the pump itself, which is already installed in our bilge, and the hoses that already go overboard. So today I'm just going to be installing this in the bilge, wiring it to the junction box, and then wiring all of that over to the control panel. This switch also comes with an app, so you can program in a lot of the different settings, like how long the pump runs after the bilge pump's activated, so how long does it take to like clear out the rest of the bilge, clear out the pipe, and a bunch of other settings. But right now, gotta sort out this mess. Let's get started. First, I've got to remove all of this leftover stuff from our old fridge, the cooling system from the old fridge, because I'm going to be mounting the bilge switch right here. Alright, well, the junction box is all wired up, and now all I need to do is run this wire harness that I made under here and up through to the bilge control switch. Alright, I've got the bilge switch hooked up, it's all wired, it's on auto, and I cracked open one of our through holes so it's trickling water into the bilge, and in a little while, hopefully, it sets off the bilge pump and sucks all the water out. That little green light means the pump's on. Check this out. Activated the switch. It doesn't leave the pump on for very long. Well, it looks like I'm going to need to go into the app and change a few settings. It only turns the pump on momentarily. But since I mounted the bilge switch pretty high up in our bilge, it needs to activate the pump for probably a minute or a minute and a half to suck all that water out. The bilge switch panel over there has a few different, it has auto and it has off, it has manual, it's got an alarm, so if the water gets higher and the bilge pump hasn't activated, it'll set an alarm off. And then it has a counter, so you can tell how many times the bilge pump has gone off since you last reset it. I'm excited to poke around inside the app and see what else we can change and what other settings we can change. It is late, I'm sweaty, it's time for a shower. Alright guys, I just finished scrubbing through the app that comes with this switch and changed around a few settings. So now when the switch activates, it'll run the pump for a full minute. It also tells you the water temperature. It also tells you the temperature in the bilge. It tells you the voltage that it's receiving and the current that it's using. It gives you the alarm state, and you can change the settings for how wet, because it has a feature that if there's water splashing around in the bilge, it won't necessarily turn the switch on. It has to sort of be underwater for a certain amount of time before it turns the switch on, so that's nice. And full disclosure, Blueguard did send us this switch kit to test out on our boat, but they're not telling us what to say, and we're not being paid to say anything about it. They just sent it to us to try out, see how we liked it, and we're really glad to finally have an automatic switch on our boat, because we didn't have anything for the last 3 years, and it was fine because we never really left the boat alone. And recently, when we flew over to the UK and left the boat for a week, it was really nice to know that if anything leaked and if we left the hatch open or something and water got in, the bilge would automatically pump itself off. So that was really nice. It kind of helped us sleep a little bit better. If you guys want one of your own, we'll leave a link in the description below. And you don't necessarily have to buy the whole kit. You can buy just the little automatic switch itself, the little white and blue hockey puck looking thing. You don't necessarily need the junction box or the control panel. You can wire it just to a normal auto manual bilge switch and wire it directly to the pump, so it'll turn on automatically, but you don't get the alarm and you don't get the bilge pump counter and a couple of those other features. But you do still have app access, so you can change the settings, which is really cool. They also make I think 4 different kinds of switches. The one we have is pretty basic because we don't have a motor on our boat, but they also make one that detects oil, and they make one that detects fuel, which is really neat. So if you do have a fuel leak or an oil leak, it will detect it in the bilge and set an alarm off before it pumps overboard, so you're not going to discharge any oil overboard, which is really cool. So I hope you guys like this miscellaneous Monday video and seeing how we installed a new solid state switch, and we'll see you next time. Cheers!